Welcome to episode 74 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda, Butterworth, and today we continue with the tales of Troy and the story of Agamemnon Tries the Argives. Zeus remembered the nod he had given to Thetis, goddess of the sea. He sent the god of dreams to the Argive camp and bade him enter the tent of sleeping Agamemnon. And the dream god, assuming the form of Nestor, whom all of the elders Agamemnon honored most, stood at the head of the king's couch and spoke to him. "Are you still asleep, son of Atreus?" he asked. "The man who decides the actions of a whole people should not sleep so long. Hear what I have to say, for I have come to you as a messenger from Zeus. He commands you to muster the Argive hosts, for the hour to conquer Troy has come. The gods have made their decision, and destruction hovers over the city." Agamemnon awoke and swiftly rose from his couch. He bound his sandals to his feet, donned his tunic, slung his sword over his shoulder, seized his scepter, and strode toward the ships through the early morning mist. At his command, the heralds went from hut to hut calling the men, but the princes of the host were summoned to council on Nestor's ship. Agamemnon was first to speak. "Friends," he said, "a heaven-sent dream visiting me in the form of Nestor revealed to me that Zeus is set on ruining Troy. Let us see whether we can rouse our men who have grown slack and discontented because of the wrath of Achilles. First, I shall tempt them with words, counseling them to board the ships and leave the Trojan coast. Then it will be your turn. Disperse through the camps, some here and some there, and urge them to stay." When Agamemnon had ended, Nestor rose and addressed the princes. "Had another told of such a dream," he said, "we should brand him a liar and turn from him full of contempt. But since he who has spoken is the foremost prince among the Danai, we cannot but believe him. So let us follow his plan." Nestor left the council, and all the princes followed him to the marketplace where the men had gathered like swarms of bees. 9 heralds marshaled them into groups and seated them in a great circle. Gradually, their talk died down to whispers until at last, silence. Then Agamemnon, standing in the midst of the gathering, raised his scepter and began, "Brave warriors of the Argive people who have come together here, Zeus has deceived me with blindness of soul. For though he once so graciously promised that I should return to my home as the destroyer of Troy, now he who has shattered so many cities, and in his great might will shatter still more, is pleased to command me to go back to Argos ingloriously, so that all those who have fallen will have died in vain. It would indeed be a disgrace if future generations learned that the great people of the Danai continued losing battles against enemies who are so much weaker. For if it were at peace and could measure the number of the Trojans against our own, if we assigned 1 Trojan as cupbearer to every table of 10 Achaeans, then many tables, I believe, would have to do without the cup. To be sure, they have powerful allies from many cities who hinder me from burning Troy to the ground, as I should like to do. But that as it may, 9 years have passed. The timbers of our ships are cracking, the ropes rot, our women and children wait at home, full of yearning for us. And so it is, perhaps, best to submit to the bidding of Zeus, go to our ships, and return to the dear land of our fathers." Agamemnon's words stirred the throng to motion as a wind swells and churns the waves of the sea. In a moment, the entire host was afoot in wild confusion. They rushed to the shore so swiftly that the dust whirled up in clouds. Each spurred on the other to drag the ships into the water. Here they pulled the prop from under a keel. There they cleared the channels connecting the camp with the sea. Even up on Olympus, those who supported the Argives were alarmed to see how earnestly they were taking Agamemnon at his word, and Hera urged Athene to hasten down to earth, and with sweet, persuasive words halt the flight of the Danai. Pallas Athene consented, and down from the craggy heights of Olympus she flew to the Argive camp. Here she found Odysseus standing before his ship. He did not move, or ventured to lay his hand upon it, and grief ate at his heart. The goddess approached him, revealed herself, and said in a gentle voice, "And so, you really want to flee? Will you let Priam triumph? You are willing to leave the Trojans, Helen, because of whom so many Argives are given their lives far from their native land? Surely you will not allow this. Go quickly in and out among the host. Do not hold back now. Use all your shrewdness and eloquence. Reason with them. Stop them." At Athene's words, Odysseus threw off his mantle, hastened toward the people. Whenever he met a prince or noble, he stopped and spoke with kindness and insistence. "Is it right, my good and brave friend," he would ask, "to give up the game like a coward? If you remained calm, you would calm the rest also. Remember that you do not know what the son of Atreus really thinks. Perhaps he was only trying the Argives. But if he came upon a common man who was making a great noise and shouting, he struck him with his staff and threatened him in a loud voice. 'Wretch! Stay where you are. Listen to what others say, you on whom no one can count either in battle or in the assembly. We Argives cannot all be kings. When many rule, no one prospers. To one alone Zeus gave the scepter, and him the rest shall obey.' In this way, Odysseus sent his imperious voice ringing through the camp, and at last induced the people to leave the ships and return to the place of assembly. Slowly they quieted down and waited for what was to come. Only one man could be heard in that hush. It was Thetis, who, as usual, was making shrill complaints against the princes and the leaders of the people. He was the ugliest man who had come from Greece to Troy, cross-eyed, lame in one foot, hunchbacked, narrow in the chest, his head long and pointed, and sparsely covered with woolly hair. This troublemaker was hateful to Odysseus and the son of Pallas, even more than to the rest, because he was constantly maligning them. But this time, Thetis derided Agamemnon, the commander-in-chief. "What have you to complain of, son of Atreus?" he shrieked. "What is it that you need? Is not your house full of precious metals and lovely women? You are living in comfort and taking your ease. Why should we allow you to lead us into misery? We should do better to sail home in our ships, leave you alone before Troy, and let you gorge yourself with gifts." Then Thersites turned to his comrades. "He has done dishonor to mighty Achilles," he shouted. "He has deprived him of his rightful prize of war. But the listless son of Pallas has no gall in his liver, or this tyrant would have done wrong for the last time." While Thersites was speaking, Odysseus had gone up to him. He measured him with a baleful look, then lifted his staff and gave him a great thump over the back with it, crying, "If ever again I found you shouting like a madman, then let my head not stand on my shoulders, nor may I call the father of Temecles, if I do not tear the clothes off you, scourge you, and send you wailing back to the ships." Thersites writhed under the blow, and a bloody weal rose up on his back. He cowered down and began to snivel, and a big tear rolled down his nose. But among the Achaeans, one man nudged the next, laughed merrily, and all were pleased that this noisy fellow had been given the punishment he so richly deserved. And now Odysseus faced the people, and beside him was Pallas Athene, who had assumed the shape of a herald and bade the gathering to be silent. He himself raised his staff to gain the attention of those about him, and said, "Son of Atreus, truly things have come to a sorry pass when the Argives are ready to disgrace you and break their promise not to leave until Troy is conquered. They wail for home like women and children, and complain to one another of the hardships they must endure. But think how shameful it would be for us to go home empty-handed after waiting here for so long a time. Oh, my friends, have patience a little longer. Remember the sign that was given us before our departure from Aulis, when standing around the spring gushing from the earth, we offered hecatombs on sacred altars under a spreading maple. To me it seems only yesterday. A serpent with dark, scaly body slipped from under the altar and wound its way up the maple. Swinging on one of the branches was a sparrow's nest, and in it were fledglings, 8 of them, huddled among the leaves, and the 9th bird was the brooding mother. With frightened twitter she hovered over her young until the serpent turned its head toward her and caught her by the wing. When it had devoured the mother and her little ones, Zeus, who had sent it, wrought a miracle and turned it to stone. And you Argives stood by and quaked with wonder. But Calchas the seer cried, "Do you not see what Zeus is foretelling by way of this miracle? The 9 sparrows are the 9 years in which you will battle for Troy. In the 10th, you shall conquer that glorious city." So Calchas predicted, and now his words are about to be fulfilled. The 9 years of fighting are at an end. The 10th has come and shall bring us victory. So let us wait together just a little longer. Oh, deny, stay until we destroy the citadel of King Priam. The Argives applauded the words of Odysseus, and wise Nestor made the most of the shift in the mood of the mob, and counseled Agamemnon to let anyone who could not quell his longing go to his ship and set sail for home. But he advised that after this he should range his men according to family line, and rank and let them fight. In this way, said Nestor, he would soon learn which of the warriors or leaders was brave and which was timid, and whether the will of the gods or fear or lack of skill in the trade of war was delaying the conquest of Troy. Agamemnon rejoiced at this sage advice and answered, "Nestor, you who are old surpass all others in wisdom. If only I had 10 more like you in the council of the Argives. Troy's lofty citadel would soon lie in the dust. As for me, I must admit that I acted foolishly when I quarreled with Achilles for the sake of a girl. Zeus must have struck me with blindness of heart. But if we too become reconciled, the fall of Troy cannot be long in coming. Now let us prepare for the attack. Each man shall eat, make ready his shield and lance, give food and drink to his horses, examine the chariots, and think only of battle. But he who fears and remains with the ships, his body shall be the prey of dogs and vultures." When Agamemnon had ended, so mighty a roar burst from the throats of the Argives that it sounded like the tide of the sea when the south wind lashes it shoreward and it breaks against the towering cliffs. The men leaped up from their places. Each hurried to his ship, and soon the smoke rose from among the huts where the meals were being prepared. Agamemnon sacrificed a bullock to Zeus, and called the noblest among the Achaeans to him. When all had eaten, he bade the heralds summon the Argives to battle, and they stormed to the meadow of the Scamander, like flocks of cranes or swans which fly along a river. The leaders, foremost among them, the son of Atreus, ordered the battalions, and splendid to behold was Agamemnon, the king of kings. His eyes and his brows were like those of the father of gods, his breast broad like that of Poseidon, and his cuirass and lance and shield like those of Ares himself. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.